to go. 2. Count them, 2. I don't know if I'm happy or sad about that. I'm kind of both. I'm happy to be done, but I'm sad that I'm not there to say goodbye to you. Hopefully you'll stop in sometime in the near future when you're able to come and see me and you're in high school and you're like that freshman kid and you come back and say, oh, Mrs. Briggy, it's so good to see you. I would love that. So 2 weeks to go. So let's get this over with. Let's do this thing. Let's get her done. Hey, this week, I'm going to start the last lesson, 8.7 scientific notation, multiplication and division. Then next week I'm going to give you a review and a quiz. It's going to be a quick short quiz, 7 or 8 problems. I'm going to do a video for it. Be sure to watch it. At every problem I do, it's going to be similar to the one on the quiz. It's going to be just like the last quiz where you'll stop the video and try the problem. Finish any work that you have not completed for me. And that goes for social studies if you have me for both. Finish any work you haven't completed for any class. Get it done, guys. You only have 2 weeks left, and that's it. Everybody's taking it really, really super easy on you, so you can do this. All right, so let's just kind of quick review. You are successful now at adding and subtracting numbers in scientific notation. That was the last lesson that I did with you. That was more difficult than this week's lesson. We are going to be able to multiply and divide this week in scientific notation. A much easier process, okay? I feel like it is anyway. Addition and subtraction was a struggle. Multiplication and division will not be. All right, so in your notes, I believe it's on page 20, be sure to stop the video in between each one of these set of notes so that you can write them down. Here we go. This is both multiplication and division of numbers written in scientific notation. You need to multiply or divide the factors first, and then your powers of 10 separately. And what does that mean? All right, so let's take a look at our factors first. Factors are the numbers, just the numbers by themselves, these thingies right here. Okay, these are your factors. So you need to multiply those things first and then do your powers of 10. Okay, so multiplying the factors here, you're just multiplying 3 times 5. Your powers of 10, though, it goes back to the product of powers property. When you're multiplying numbers that have the same exponents that have the same base, you need to add your exponents. So the base is 10, and you're adding your -5 and your -2 together. So in order to do this problem, you need to first multiply the factors and then add your powers of 10 separately. Okay, so let's do that. 3 times 5 is 15, times 10 to the -5 plus -2 is -7. Now, here's the tricky part. This needs to be rewritten in scientific notation. And clearly it looks like it is in scientific notation, but because we know scientific notation, that first number or first factor needs to be a number that is greater than 1 but less than 10. And 15 is not less than 10. So we need to change that, number 15. So 15, in order for it to be less than 10, we know that the decimal point is located here in the number 15. And what we need to do is we need to move it between the 1 and the 5. When I move the decimal point one place like that, I can now rewrite this as 1.5 times 10 to the first power. I moved it one place. That first power came from the one place decimal place that I moved my factor. I still have this 10 to the -7 hanging out here in my problem. So now I'm going to regroup all of that together. So I changed 15 to scientific notation, and I brought along my initial power of 10 from the original problem. Now I need to add my exponents together again. All right, so that would give me 1.5 times 10 to the 1 plus -7. When I finished my problem, I would get 1.5 times 10 to the -6. Okay, now let's make sure it's in scientific notation. Is my factor a number greater than 1 but less than 10? It is. And I am done with this problem. Stop the video and put your notes in. I skipped try it 2 somehow, so we're just going to go for it. We're not even going to do it. Let's go right to try it number 3. Try it number 3. I need to start out by multiplying my factors. Okay, my factors here are the 6 and the 8. 6 times 8. And my power of 10, I only have one of them. So it's times 10 to the -5. All right, So 6 times 8 is 48. And I bring down that times -5. There's nothing to add here as far as my powers of 10 because I only had one of them in the initial problem. But I do need to take care of that 48 because it is not in scientific notation. In order to write this in scientific notation, I need to move that decimal point in the number 48 to make this a number between 1 and 10, between 1 but less than 10. So I need to move that decimal point one place over, making this number 4.8. So 4.8 times 10 to the first power is 48 exactly. I need to also then multiply that times that -10 to the -5 power because that was part of my original problem. Now, going in, I need to add those two exponents together. 4.8 times 10 to the 1 plus -5 gives me 4.8 times 10 to the -4, and I am now done with that problem. It is in scientific notation because 4.8 is a number greater than 1 but less than 10. And I have a power of times a power of 10 to a exponent. Uh-oh. Let's get rid of all that and bring it in as we need it. I had to change this because initially I did this problem and I did it wrong. So if we had been in class, you would have seen that and you would have went, "Ah, Mrs. Priggy, you did it wrong. You owe me a sucker." And I'd have been like, "Yeah, I do." But it is not going to work, it looks like. I must get rid of this so I can explain this to you. Boy, look at that. On our last official lesson together, made that mistake and I had to do the video over and blah, 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 blah. All right, let's get this done. All right, first of all, multiplying our factors together. Our factors are 7 times 3. Okay, 7 times 3 is easy. Then we add our exponents. 10 to the second power times 10 to the fifth power is 10 to the 2 plus 5. So, adding those exponents together, I get 21 times 10 to the 7th. Question is this in scientific notation? It's not. 21 is too big. So I need to figure out where my decimal point is in the number 21, and I know it's at the end. I need to move it to a place to make the number 21 greater than 1 but less than 10. Moving it one place will give me 2.1. So the number 21 in scientific notation is 2.1 times 10 to the first. And I know I need that 10 to the 7th in addition to that because that was in the original problem and I need to bring it along. Now I need to add my exponents. 2.1 times 10 to the 1 plus 7 gives me 2.1 times 10 to the 8th. And now I am finished. I'm going to double check, is this scientific notation? It is, because 2.1 is a number between 1 but less than 10 times a power of 10. That is scientific notation. Question 5. First, multiply those factors. 2 times 6 times 10 to the 4 plus -7. Then I'm going to add my exponents. 2 times 6 is 12. 4 plus -7 is -3. So I get 12 to the times 10 to the -3rd power. Is this in scientific notation? It is not because 12 is too big. I need to move the decimal point one place, making the number 1.2 now. 1.2 times 10 to the first is 12 in scientific notation. Bring along your initial power of 10, and now we will add our exponents together. 1.2 times 10 to the 1 plus -3 gives me 1.2 times 10 to the -2 power. Remember, my friends, you could put your exponents in the calculator right along with any multiplication that you don't know. You should know all these multiplication problems. You should not need a calculator for that. You shouldn't need it for your integers either, but if you do, if you struggle with this, your calculator can be your friend here. What I do not want to see is I do not want you to put this entire thing in your calculator and give me the standard form or a number that in this case would be 0.0012. That would not work for me Okay, it has to be written in scientific notation or you do not get full credit for this assignment. Here we go. Division. When you're dividing, you will be using the quotient of powers property as well as the product of powers property. So it is almost the exact same process, but when you're using the quotient powers property, you will be subtracting the exponents first. Okay, let me show you what that looks like. Here's your first example. You have 1.5 times 10 to the negative 8 divided by 6 times 10 to the 7th. I know this is a division problem because it is written like a fraction. All fractions are division. You knew that. You know that. You're really, really smart. Okay? Where are my factors here? Well, my factors are 1.5 divided by 6. Okay, those numbers that are not powers of 10, those are my factors. So I need to actually do that part first, 1.5 divided by 6. The second part I need to do is, this is a division problem, so my factors, my powers of 10, my quotients, product powers, has to be subtracted. Those exponents need to be subtracted. Here's the tricky part. Remember, all subtractions of integers are addition of the opposite. So when we solve this thing, we need to make sure we do that. If you are so worried about it, put this part in your calculator. It will help you. 1.5 divided by 6 is 0.25 or 25 hundredths. Negative 8 minus 7 is negative 15. Why is it negative 15? Because I need to add the opposite to solve integer subtraction problems. Negative 8 plus negative 7 is negative 15. Okay. Struggle, put it in your calculator, please. I don't want you to struggle with any of this. All right, so is 0.25 times 10 to the negative 15 in scientific notation? Well, the only way to know that is to look at the factor in that particular equation, and I get 0.25, and that is not greater than 1. It's actually less than 1. So I need to move my decimal point. And when you're moving the decimal point, it's in front of the number. This time I'm going to the right to move my decimal point, and only one place over. I know when I start out with a really small number that is less than 1, and I move the decimal point, I'm going to make this number 2.5, but I also get a power of 10 now that is negative 1. This is a small number to start out with, and I'm moving it to the right. I am making it a negative exponent. Okay? The way to remember this, guys, is if you start out with a number that is less than 1, your exponent will be negative. Now I have to take along that 10 to the negative 15 as well. And now I'm down to a problem that says 2.5 times 10 to the negative 1 times 10 to the negative 15. This is all multiplication. So this is where I have to go back in now and add my exponents. 2.5 times negative 1 times 10 to the negative 1 plus negative 15 gives me 2.5 times 10 to the negative 16, and I am done. I know I am done with this problem because 2.5 is a number between 1 but less than 10 times a power of 10, that's scientific notation. It's good to go. Okay, so the divide, subtract, change into scientific notation, re-add your exponents, and you are done. Okay. Try it number 7. I only have one power of 10 here, but I still need to do the division. I still need to divide my, my factors. 9.2 divided by 4.6. And guys, it's from left to right. You can start out by writing this down as a fraction, or you could put it right in your calculator, 9.2 divided by 4.6, from left to right. You have to bring along your power of 10, which in this case is 10 to the 12th power. So when I divide 9.2 by 4.6, I get 2. And I still bring down my 10 to the 12th power. Now, Changing it to scientific notation. Is it in scientific notation already? Is 2 a number between 1 and less than 10? And the answer is yes, it absolutely is. So I am done already. This problem is finished. 2 times 10 to the 12th power is scientific notation. It's a 2 with 11 zeros behind, 12 zeros behind it. So it is done. Done and done. Okay, so you would be done. You would enter this in your Big Ideas answer sheet and check it, and it would say, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right. All right, here we go. Question 8. Divide those factors. What are my factors? It's going to be 1.5 divided by 7.5. Okay, the number on the left, from left to right, 1.5 divided by 7.5. Then my powers of 10, because this is a division problem, they need to be subtracted from each other. 10 to the negative 3 minus 2. Okay, trickiness, because when we're using subtraction, we know we need to add the opposite. Okay, which means I end up with 1.5 divided by 7.5 is 2/10 times 10 to the negative 3 plus negative 2 is negative 5. Okay, add the opposite. Changing to scientific notation. Is 2/10 in scientific notation? Is this number already in scientific notation? No, it is not. 2/10 is too small. In order to make this a number between 1 and less than 10, greater than 1 but less than 10, I need to move that decimal point 1 place. When I move the decimal point 1 place to the right, I am making a very small number in scientific notation, 2 times 10 to the negative 1. It's a number less than 1 to begin with, so I have a negative exponent. I need to bring along that negative 5 that was in the original problem. And now I have 2 times 10 to the negative 1 times 10 to the negative 5. I have to resolve my exponents by adding them. This is all multiplication now. We went from division to multiplication. 2 times 10 to the negative 1 plus negative 5 gives me 2 times 10 to the negative 6. You don't need those parentheses actually around your exponent. I mistakenly left them there. But 2 times 10 to the negative 6 is scientific notation. It's already in scientific notation. 2 is greater than 1 but less than 10. Written as a times a power of 10, and it is scientific notation. Stop the video, fill in your notes. Number 9. Start out by dividing your factors. Okay, the factors here are 3.75 divided by 1.25. Then we know we have to subtract our exponents because this is a division problem, so I do times 10 to the negative 8 minus negative 7. All right, first divide this, then subtract your exponents. You get negative 8 plus, because we're adding the opposite of negative 7 is positive 7. So I end up with 3.75 divided by 1.25 is 3 times 10 to the negative 1 power. Negative 8 plus positive 7 is negative 1. Need to write it in scientific notation. Is it in scientific notation already? It absolutely is. The answer to that is yes. 3 is a number between 1 and less than 10. You are done with number 9. Stop the video. Number 10. Start by dividing your factors. Divide your factors. Factors are 9.2 divided by 2.3. Subtract your exponents. 6 minus 12. Okay. Resolve it by subtracting those exponents. Be sure you add the opposite or plunk it in your calculator. But 6 plus negative 12 gives you 9.2 divided by 2.3 is 4 times 10 to the negative 6 power. Is this in scientific notation? It absolutely is, because 4 is greater than 1 but less than 10. You are done. This is what your problem, your answer should look like on Big Ideas. It would say, yay, 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 you did it right, you did it right. All right. This is the end of my video. You need to stay focused. There's just a little bit more that I need to tell you. So stay focused, get her done. I only gave you 6 problems this week. Okay, 3 multiplication, 3 division. You have no ALEKS to do. You need to complete any missing work because it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Complete social studies, complete science, complete English. Whatever you got hanging out there, my friends, get her done. The review, next week there will be a video. It'll be like we did in the last assessment, where I will do a problem, you stop the video, you go on Big Ideas, and you solve the problem that I gave you for the quiz. It shouldn't be any big deal at all. Remember, on quizzes though, you will not get any extra attempts. You will only get 1 try. So watch the video, it'll help you. You have earned a treat. So there's your treat from me. If this wasn't, this is your virtual treat. If this was actual class time, I would give you, I don't know if I would give you a fudge bar with rainbow ice cream inside, but hey, if I could find that and you would want it, man, I'd have it for you, right? No problem. But this is the end of the video. Get to work. Get her done. See you next time.